Tonight's Milburn Township Planning Board meeting. Here's report. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised a notice of this meeting was made by posting on the bulletin board at Town Hall and serving the officially designated newspapers a list of the meeting dates annually, indicating that this meeting would take place at the Milburn Board of Education Center building at 7:30 p.m. on July 15th, 2026. May I have a roll call, please?
Jonathan Baxter.
Here.
Allison Canfield.
Here.
Michael Cohen.
Here.
Jorge Mastro-Petro. Deborah Neves.
Here.
Frank Sacamandi.
Here.
Michael Zion.
Here.
Vice Chair Stephen Vijay.
Here.
Chair Gaston Hopper.
Here.
Sergey Suso.
Here.
Chris Hires.
Here. Right, welcome again, everybody. Tonight we do have a full agenda. We'll have a little bit of housekeeping to do, approval of minutes, a couple of resolutions to memorialize. Going to switch the order of the capital review project and our ordinance master plan consistency review. So we'll do the master plan consistency review before the capital project review. And that will be followed by an executive session should the board choose to have one. All right, to start off, did everybody have a chance to review the May 20th, 2026 regular meeting minutes? Any comments or questions? All right, I'll make a motion to approve and adopt the regular meeting minutes for May 20th, 2026. Do I have a second? I'll second. All in favor? Aye. All in favor? Okay. Oh.
I can't either.
Oh, wow.
I can't.
The objections will be noted.
Yeah, it will be noted. I have three. Yes.
Uh,
Jonathan, Allison, and Deborah.
All right.
It was unanimous otherwise.
On to the executive session meeting minutes for May 20th, 2026. Does anybody have any comments or questions about those? I'll make a motion to approve and adopt the May 20th, 2026 executive session meeting minutes. Do I have a second? I'll second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Did everybody have a chance to review the June 3rd, 2026 regular meeting minutes? Any questions or comments? All right, as there are no comments or questions, I'll make a motion to approve and adopt the regular meeting minutes for June 3rd, 2026. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And finally, the executive session meeting minutes for June 3rd, 2026. Any comments or questions? No comments or questions, so I'll make a motion to approve and adopt the June 3rd, 2026 executive session meeting minutes. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, next up on the agenda, memorializations of resolutions for application 26004 and application 26005. The first application is the resolution is for the approval of the major site plan with associated variances for Annie's Milburn Partners LLC, 249 Milburn Ave, Block 705, Block 1. Do we have any questions or comments from the court? All right, I will make a motion to adopt the resolution for application 26004. Do I have a second? Second.
You were absent that day.
Oh, then we need another second. I'll
Yeah.
second that was okay.
And I would just note that, I believe we might have had a June date that may or may not have been changed in the interim, but I just want to make sure we have the July 15th resolution adoption date. Being a little presumptuous and assuming the resolution is going to be adopted.
But it's not going to be a June date.
So, thank you. I'm sorry, we do have a motion in a second. Chairman, so it will be a roll call vote of those qualified.
Michael Cohen.
Yes.
Frank Sacamandi.
Yes.
Michael Zion.
Yes.
Vice Chair Srini Vijay.
Yes.
Chair Gaston Hopper.
Yes.
Sergey Suso.
Yes.
Chris Heinrichs.
Yes. We also have up for adoption the application, the resolution for application 26005, approval for preliminary and final site plan of the Canoe Brook Country Club, 1108 Morris Turnpike, block 5304, lot 1. Any comments or questions about the resolution? No comments or questions?
Only the same July 15th date in one spot, at least in the last draft I saw, they had the June date. If we could double check that. Thank you.
So as noted, I will make a motion to adopt the resolution for application 26005. Do I have a second? Roll call vote, please.
Jonathan Baxter,
Yes.
Allison Campion,
Yes.
Michael Cohen,
Yes.
Deborah Nevis,
Yes.
Michael Zion,
Yes.
Chair Gaston Hopper,
Yes.
Sergey Sisto.
Yes.
All right, thank you, everyone. As stated previously, I'm going to switch the order of business with the capital project review. So next up will be master plan consistency review for ordinance 2756-26. This ordinance has to do with floor area, residential floor area ratio. Mr. Petto, would you mind guiding us through your memo?
Sure, absolutely. And just by way of initial background, this is an ordinance that's the product of the zoning code examination committee. This is an amendment that was requested by the zoning officer with respect to specific language within the existing text. I'll refer to that just for clarification. In the board's edification, it's the strike through sentence, the second to last sentence of the existing text of the ordinance for looking at the document, that it indicates that such computation shall not include basements nor floor area of that part of any room where the ceiling is less than 7 feet in height. The zoning officer is seeing a number of applicants with ceiling heights of 6'8" inches, 6'10" inches. So the purpose of this amendment is to clarify that and quantify and capture all habitable rooms, even if they are not dimensionally identified. So I'll go through the consistency review to better guide the board. So pursuant to the municipal land use law, the governing body may adopt ordinances regulating the use of land and buildings for adoption. 40:55D-64 requires referral of the proposed ordinance to the planning board for review and a report identifying any provisions that are inconsistent with the master plan. Together with these recommendations concerning these inconsistencies and any other matters the board deems appropriate. To help the board's review this evening, I have this memo that I prepared, which you all should have a copy of as well. So under existing issues and ordinance summary, section DRZ 301.22 currently defines residential floor area ratio using total floor area in relation to lot area. It includes private garages, it excludes basements and portions of rooms with ceilings below 7 feet, and double counts certain high ceiling spaces. The ordinance revises the definition to establish a more objective and uniform measurement standard. In summary, the ordinance states the formula directly as total residential floor area divided by the total lot area and requires floor area to be measured using the outside dimensions of exterior walls, retains the inclusion of private garages and the inclusion of basements from residential floor area, deletes the existing exclusion of portions of rooms with ceiling height below 7 feet, thereby eliminating a headroom-based deduction for upper-level floor areas with sloping roof. Clarifies the treatment of cathedral, vaulted, and other open ceiling floor-to-floor heights of 16 feet or greater by requiring the floor area beneath the opening to be counted twice. This is for subsequent future additions where somebody can put a floor in to create an additional space. Does not amend the maximum FAR percentages, bulk height, setback coverage limits, or other bulk controls applicable. It does not modify the floor area ratio for non-residential and multifamily developments. With respect to the relationship to the master plan, the following goals, objectives, and/or recommendations are advanced by the ordinance amendment. The first is goal 1, objective 1.01, to encourage appropriate land uses that promote the character of the township as a small suburb of the highest quality and protect the character of established residential neighborhoods and encourage land use and development at an appropriate scale and density. The revised definition makes regulated floor area more representative of building area and interior volume created by low ceiling floors and double height spaces. This supports residential development at a scale consistent with established residential neighborhoods. Item number 2 is the recommendation on page 48 of the master plan. Evaluate as necessary the effectiveness of existing land use regulations to ensure that new residential development and additions to existing homes are compatible with prevailing neighborhood context. Specifically review the R6 zoning to ensure that new construction is not excessively bulky in relation to existing neighborhood context. The ordinance directly advances this recommendation by clarifying how residential floor area is calculated without altering the underlying FAR limits. Number 3, another recommendation on page 48, monitor recent teardowns and new construction in single-family districts to determine whether additional zoning modifications are necessary to protect residential character. This amendment responds to an identified zoning administration issue affecting the measurement of new homes and additions, and provides a more consistent basis for enforcement. And finally, number 4, promote clear, user-friendly, and transparent application review and public hearing processes for development proposals and application. By stating the FAR formula directly and clarifying the treatment of garages, basements, and low ceiling areas and open ceiling spaces, this improves predictability for applicants, reviewing professionals such as the zoning officer and the public. And finally, the planning board shall make and transmit to the township committee a report identifying any provisions in the proposed ordinance that are inconsistent with the master plan and recommendations concerning spaces and any other matters. Any questions?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, as always, we do have a resolution prepared so that if the board finds that the proposed ordinance is not inconsistent with the master plan, you can go right to adopting the resolution accordingly. If it's a different finding, we can modify it quickly and easily enough so that you can adopt that resolution to the contrary as well. And of course, if there's any other recommendations, we can add them and have it ready for tonight. I anticipate.
Any questions or comments? And I will, yeah, I agree, Mike, straightforward. It does help our zoning officer, makes things much more clear and concise for everybody else who's using the ordinance. So, yeah, I will make a motion to find this ordinance not inconsistent with the master plan. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
And just for the record, and that would also include the adoption of the resolution memorializing as such, correct?
Yes, that's included in the motion.
Jonathan Baxter,
Yes.
Allison Campfield,
Yes.
Michael Cohen,
Yes.
Deborah Nevis,
Yes.
Frank Sacamandi,
Yes.
Michael Zion,
Yes.
Vice Chair Srini Vijay,
Yes.
Chair Gaston Hopper,
Yes.
Sergey Sisto.
Yes. Next order of business is ordinance 2761-26, and it is ordinance for wireless telecommunication facilities. And again, this is for master plan consistency review. Mr. Pedro, can you please take us again through your memo?
Certainly will do. I'll save the background as by way of, the consistency review. Again, the governing body has referred this ordinance here to the planning board for consistency review with the township master plan. I'll review kind of the existing issues and the ordinance summary to get started. So the township's current development regulations and zoning ordinance does not comprehensively address siting, design, and review of wireless telecommunications facilities outside of municipal right-of-ways, public rights of way. The ordinance for you establishes a new section, DRZ 609.16, wireless telecommunications facilities. The summary of the ordinance, number 1, defines, or letter A, I guess I'll say, defines the facilities subject to zoning regulations and distinguishes small wireless facilities within the municipal right-of-way, which remain governed by Chapter 4, Section 4-2 from what's called macro facilities subject to 609.16. Permits macro facilities as conditional uses in the B1, CMO, OR1, OR3, and C zones only, and allows for conditional use consideration in the B2 zones, B3, B4, and OR2 zones only where no feasible location exists within that first group of districts. The ordinance requires applicants to demonstrate that those districts are infeasible or not able to support the facility, which then allows them access to that second group of districts.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, in essence, there's an additional condition for that second level of potential zones within which a macro facility can be deemed a conditionally permitted use as opposed to a non-permitted use.
That's correct. Item C requires a service need alternative site and co-location analysis of by the applicants, including review of existing facilities and potentially suitable structures within the township and within 1/4 mile of township borders. D, it establishes siting, bulk, and design standards, including a 300-foot setback from residential zones and uses, schools, places of worship, and childcare centers, a general 90-foot tower limit, monopole screening, self-design, rooftop placement lighting, and noise standards, and provisions for federal law relief where they may be required. Item E regulates operations, safety, maintenance, abandonment, and removal, including security fencing, compliance with applicable radio frequency emission standards, and removal of facilities that become abandoned or discontinued in use. And then item F, the ordinance also establishes application review procedures, professional review, escrow provisions, federal preemption standards, and procedures intended to comply with applicable federal shot clocks. It's important to just highlight here that the Federal Communications Commission sets forth a series of standards and requirements, which put a lot of pressure on local governments to expedite review in context of those federal timing standards. This ordinance is in alignment with those, and I do just want to extend appreciation to the Township Wireless Telecommunications Consultant who advised on this ordinance and helped us craft that language to make sure it's consistent with federal requirements as well. With respect to the relationship to the master plan, the ordinance advances the following objectives and recommendations. Goal 1, objective 1.01, encourage appropriate land uses and promote the character of the township as a small suburb of the highest quality and protect the character of established residential neighborhoods and encourage land use and development at an appropriate scale and density. The ordinance advances these policies by excluding residential districts from the listed conditional use zones, requiring substantial separation from residential areas and sensitive uses, and requiring screening, concealment, and context-sensitive siting. Number 2, goal 4, objective 4.01 and 4.04 of the master plan on page 44, maintain and enhance economic vitality of the downtown and other business districts, promote opportunities for high quality retail and commercial activity in all business districts, and strengthen existing business centers. By providing wireless infrastructure that supports business operations, emergency communications, and modern economic activity, while the ordinance provides design controls intended to limit adverse effects within the business district's character. And finally, number 3, goal 6 and objective 6.03, develop and implement strategies to address townwide sustainability, resiliency, and to adapt to global climate change, and evaluate and improve townships infrastructure as appropriate. This ordinance directly advances the objectives by establishing a predictable framework for the vision of creating a telecommunications infrastructure while encouraging co-location and use of existing structure already within the township. And again, the planning board shall make and transmit a report identifying any provision in the ordinance that is inconsistent with the master plan and make recommendations concerning those inconsistencies. And then finally, I did just include, there is one technical edit that needs to be made to the ordinance. There's just a numbering issue. It's listed as the last section on the on my memo. There's a spot where it's referred to as section 609.14. We're doing these kind of concurrently other new section numberings. So that this ordinance should be 609.16. And I have the language here that should be transmitted over to the governing body just to make that technical.
Is there a case or is there something, is there a request from one of the telecom companies to put a tower in or something?
There's not. The issue is right now, the township does not have any regulatory language that, you know, if a wireless carrier comes into the municipality, there is no avenue for them to proceed. With thereby forcing every case to essentially go to the zoning board of adjustment because there is no use permission or no use standards. And that creates an inherent natural conflict with the FCC requirements of, I think it's a 90-day shot. So you got 45 days,
Depends on
90
the
days,
type,
depends on the
yeah.
type of facility. So the federal requirement is 45 days or 90 days, depending on the facility type, and the board of adjustment timeline for approval is 120 days. So we have an inconsistency right off the bat as far as getting approvals through the process.
Certainly want to be careful and commend the township for being so with respect to what is now a 30-year-old, doing the math correct, statute, a federal Telecommunications Act of 1996, and the FCC directives have only enhanced the preemption of our control as municipalities with respect to locating and siting wireless communication facilities. So prudent, in my opinion, and just from reading the and well done, certainly appears to be a very well done ordinance. With respect to resolution, of course, we do have the same as always, although I'm not certain that the ordinance number got into the draft that we circulated because I believe the ordinance number might be a very recent vintage. I think it was introduced, if I'm not mistaken, last night, wasn't it?
Yes.
So ordinance 2761-26, but that can be included in the resolution if the board so finds that this ordinance, like the prior one, was not inconsistent with the master plan for the reasons stated by our plan.
I just have one question. The
Sure.
300 foot from residential
Mhm.
properties, is that a standard? Or how did we come up with that?
So I believe that dimensional standard was provided by the wireless consultant as a recommended distance to be from residential.
I guess residential and other what we call sensitive
Yes, another sensitive
receptors.
uses, that's my
Right.
point, it includes those other.
Got it. Thank you.
Sometimes you see cell phone towers on top of residential buildings. This would prohibit that basically.
It's a good question. Yeah, it varies by zone, so it depends on which zone. If you're talking about multifamily structures, I guess, in
Yeah.
particular. So a multifamily building within the residential district, it's a good question. Residential, because I'll just have to look at the ordinance language to see if it talks about residential uses exclusively.
Because in a lot of towns, if you have a 4 or 5 story residential building,
Yes.
that's
Mhm.
probably one of the taller buildings around.
And that's
that
where-
Tends to be where you can put one of these
Exactly.
antennas, screen it so that it doesn't look like
Mhm.
cell tower.
Just get the separating from one second.
Good question, but would that be necessary if we had the cell towers placed properly throughout the town?
It's complicated. I've recently put out social media, call for people to send to me information of where there's no cell coverage, but I've been working with Verizon on that. And there are a lot of areas of town that have very poor coverage, and the cell phone carriers have said they want to put additional towers. It's hard to find locations to put those, and so don't want to necessarily limit where we can put them if it would make sense for it to maybe go there. So for example, over by the mall, you've got some tall buildings there, they're residential. They could easily hide an antenna on the top of that. It's one of the taller, structures in the area that would probably work better than if they just put an ugly tower on a pole. So, I think we want to just be careful about whether we're excluding a place that you might typically find these antennas going in other towns.
Yes.
Yeah, the only request I would have is that would be fully disclosed for some of those residents, I think, if it were, right, because that would be probably
Sure, I
pretty
mean,
important.
The FCC says the radiation emitted is harmless, but that's the FCC. They'll have their own opinions on that, I suppose.
So with respect to your request, Mayor, so under the setting and bulk standards, item number 2 states the following language: towers shall be set back a minimum of 300 feet from any residential zone, residential use, school, place of worship, or child care center. Based on the wording here, just the way it's phrased, I would say that an exclusively residential use may fall under that residential use. So if we had just an apartment building or just a residential building only, I think that would fall into this bucket. So a wireless facility could not be located within 300 feet of just an apartment building or garden apartment complex. But I think if it's a mixed use structure, that's not captured.
So if it was a multifamily, but it had retail on the bottom, as they often do, then it would be a.
Correct, that would be a mixed use, not an exclusive residential use.
You've got buildings that be up there,
Right, no, I know, it doesn't necessarily cover it,
but
but
they do need a tower over there. But I'm not sure what would the hotels fall under their residential.
No, that would not be considered residential.
Would the micro facilities be able to cover what we're talking about, or do we need a macro tower?
I can't opine on which technology solution is.
Okay, all right,
I'm not
I got you.
agree.
I was focused on this one as you.
But it's a good question.
My research was.
I wish I had an answer for you.
So the Verizon development director that I spoke to a couple weeks ago, said that, in general, if they have the ability to place a macro tower, that is a lot better, because they have one of them, higher power, covers a larger area. We do have a number of small cells that have been deployed, and we're trying to get more deployed. But carriers prefer the larger centralized towers because it serves more customers, it's more cost effective, less, you get one set of approvals for it as opposed to you're gonna do 5 or 6 small cells.
And presumably the agreement would be with the tower company as opposed to the Verizon, AT&T's of the world.
Yeah, it's my understanding most of the towers are owned by separate companies and then space
Lease,
leased
Go back to the carrier.
but it's generally a carrier might be
Requesting.
sponsoring or requesting the tower in that area.
So as it reads right now, any residential, like fully residential.
Correct,
It would
would
be a
not be.
conditional, so they would have to come.
So any exclusively residential building or use would be subject to the 300-foot setback. So a facility must be located 300
Or else they would have to request
ask
a
for a
D
D3
3
variance from
non-conforming conditional use variance
Right.
from the zoning board of adjustment.
Okay.
And our telecommunications consultant was fine with that restriction.
Yeah, this setback language was
I mean, it does qualify, it says if does say straight away where compliance with the 300-foot setback is technically infeasible or would result in an effective prohibition under, I presumably, the federal code. The approving authority may reduce the setback to the minimum extent necessary, but they'd have to come
yes.
and get it approved, which could be zero in the case of the upper minimum extent necessary.
Or even, are they able to put it where near the mall?
So we've authorized one on JFK Parkway down on land. They're looking to put another over by the Hilton, but we know from our Northbound Affordable Housing Plan that there's likely to be some sort of building there.
So that would
Be a lot,
second
that
one.
might be a logical place for one at some point, but you know, just thinking of the taller buildings in town, more and more of them are residential type buildings. But again, the telecommunications consultant does this for a living and
No.
arguably would err on the side of carriers, so they think it's not a concern in this town. It's fine.
And if there's a particular problem, it's not that there's gonna be 100 of these, so if there's a particular problem and they need to come before the land use board and
Well-
with the appropriate evidence, then, you know, that's fine.
And I think it's an important point raised, because in all cases, these are conditional uses, so there will be an appearance before land use board regardless. So
Right.
if it is conforming and meets all these conditions, it will be here at the planning
Comes to
board.
us.
If it deviates from one of these standards, it will be at the zoning board of adjustment. So these facilities are not going to just be approved administratively, they must appear before.
But so if we did for some reason need to put one of these things on top of a residential building, they'd be able to come before this board and get a variance.
No, from the conditional use, if it doesn't meet that standard, it goes to the board of adjustment.
I see.
Yeah, D3 from the board of adjustment under that circumstance. Fully conforming with all the conditions
It's here.
comes to us as for a conforming conditional use approval, not a non-conforming conditional use.
I think it's good that you mentioned the facility on JFK Parkway because that's an application that came in without these standards. So that's an application that's at the Board of Adjustment for all the relief, that's not contemplated use.
Right,
they
and
would- they
that's,
would
that
prob-
makes it very difficult as well.
Yes.
So this is 99%.
Correct.
And without the ordinance, then they would have had to seek or must have had to seek a D1 use variance.
I believe that was the case, as well as I.
Most difficult to obtain because it's just a purely non-permitted use. It's not listed, so. This might comport more, this ordinance might comport more with the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996, and the FCC directives that have come out and the regulations since then. So, hence prudent.
It is, when I did my research on it, again, I will flat out say telecommunications, not my thing. I did a lot of research, read it through several AI bots, and we have a very comprehensive ordinance. Ranks among the top, actually, more comprehensive than most ordinances in this area. So I do think it's good. I do think it is not inconsistent with the master plan.
Or us right back on target.
Right, that's right. That's where, well, I want to say that there may be a little bit that we can improve on, but as far as this ordinance goes, I do think we should find it not inconsistent with the master plan. And we have something, and then we can do further investigation and try to amend it in the near future should.
If it's
Something
needed,
comes
it
up.
might not be but necessary.
Yes, sir. Okay. All right, but
So, waiting for a motion to adopt and find not inconsistent if everyone's done, and that's the desire of the board.
okay. I will make a motion to find this ordinance not inconsistent with the master plan and to adopt the resolution with the edits that Steve has said. Do I have a second?
Second,
Roll call vote, please.
Jonathan Baxter,
Yes.
Allison Canfield,
yes.
Michael Cohen,
Yes.
Deborah Rivas,
Yes.
Frank Sakamundi,
Yes.
Michael Zion,
Yes.
Vice Chair Srini Vijay,
Yes.
Chair Gaston Happer,
Yes.
and Sergio Sisto.
Yes. All right, motion passes. All right, on to our capital project review, public hearing for the evening. We have representation from the township.
Good evening, my name's Rob Walsh, Chief Civil and Environmental Engineer for EI Associates, designers of the synthetic project, which I'm presenting tonight. We submitted plans. I don't know if you want to swear me in, this is.
I will be doing so. In fact, with the chair's permission, maybe I and perhaps Graham as well can give a little predicate for reminders to the members of the board and for the members of the public as well before I do this. So this is a capital project review pursuant to section 31A of the municipal land use law that provides that whenever planning board shall have adopted any portion of the master plan, as we have, certain public agencies, including specifically school boards, Graham's checking me to make sure I get it right. They before taking action necessitating the expenditure of public funds incidental to the location, character, or extent of a land development project must afford our planning board an opportunity, a 45-day period, to conduct a capital project review in conjunction with, to make recommendations, to review and make recommendations in conjunction with the master plan prior to the project proceeding. We do not have primary jurisdiction over this application. This is not a land development application before the board because there are various statutes and case law, NJSA 18A:18A-16, the Facilities Planning Services Act, the Murnick case and the Clifton case. I'll spare everybody the citations because I sound enough like a lawyer without them. The State Department of Education has near exclusive authority over the approval of contracts for the development of any land development project pursued by a Board of Education, any Board of Education in any district, in any municipality throughout the state. Our role is limited to determining whether the development is consistent with the objectives of the municipality's master plan, and we can make recommendations, only recommendations, on the proposal, if any, particularly focused on, and bear with me, the recommendations, if any, designed to make the capital project even more consistent with the master plan, should we make such a determination, wish to make such recommendations. But our role is strictly recommendatory. We don't have the ability to approve or deny. In fact, the project will move forward regardless. And we don't have the authority, because we are preempted by the state, we don't have the authority to impose conditions, only to make recommendations. That said, under the municipal land use law, this is a public hearing under section 10 thereof. So we will treat it that way. I will, with the chair's permission, swear in the witness. We will have public questioning, should there be any, as well as board questioning. We will have public comment, should there be any. And then you will make a determination with respect to master plan consistency and any recommendations you wish to make. And I will memorialize all this in a resolution, hopefully by the next meeting. Generally keep it. I hope that explains everything comprehensively and in an understandable fashion. If anybody has any questions, or Graham or anyone else wishes to add anything that I missed.
I would just want to point out, it's a joint project of the Board of Education and the township.
Thank
So,
you.
you know, some of the stuff that you said about, you know, jurisdiction with the state board, they have jurisdiction, but it's not entirely a Board of Education project.
Thank you. That's true. And although I say 90% stays the same, because even if it were a township, or to the extent it is a township joint project, the township is generally exempt from zoning as well. So the same processes apply, the same authority applies, master plan consistency and strictly recommendatory. So nothing really changes in that regard, but yes, that is more clear, so thank you for that. It is a joint project. Otherwise, with the chair's permission, I could swear in our one and only witnesses, I understand it?
Correct.
Okay, and do you swear to God or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And are you testifying, you know, if I understand correctly, you're an engineer and a planner. Do you wish to testify in one, the other, or both capacities?
I can do both.
There you go. And if you could just provide us your qualifications and licensure in good standing, I assume, in the state of New Jersey, both as an engineer and as a planner.
Yes, I do.
Okay, and could you just very briefly provide your qualifications, in addition to the fact that you're a licensed engineer and a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey, both in good standing?
So I've been designing synthetic turf fields for 35 years. Licensed engineer and planner accepted as an expert witness or testimony before over 100 municipalities. Also testified as an expert witness, planner, and engineer before 8 superior courts in North Jersey.
Defer to the chair.
Thank you very much. We find you acceptable as an engineer and a professional planner.
Thank you. So the plan is to install synthetic turf at the varsity field and the outfields, left field and right field. And what I've done, this is not in your packet. You want to label it as an exhibit. This is a colored site plan highlighting the green area where the synthetic turf will be installed. As you can see, the varsity field will become synthetic turf. We have a multi-purpose field 1 that'll be in right field, and a multi-purpose field 2 that'll be in left field. The fields will be striped for various sports. Generally speaking, girls and boys lacrosse will be in multi-purpose field number 2, because those require a safety screen beyond the goals. And this was kind of the best place to put it, because putting one in shallow right field would interfere with the varsity baseball field. So prior, approximately 2 years ago, knowing that there was concern with this site as to whether it was feasible because of the location of the flood. And then July 23, DEP changed the regulations to raise the flood elevation on delineated streams by 2 feet. So prior to July of 2023, you could have made the whole field area synthetic turf without involvement from DEP. In 2024, we did a feasibility study and determined that the flood hazard line, which used to be out by Van Winkle's Brook and along this edge here, when you raise it up 2 feet, it created an island. This is not in the floodplain, this area, and this area closer to the school is outside of the floodplain. So this portion of the site was regulated by DEP. Essentially what it involved is us meeting the net fill criteria, where we do not increase the fill or take away from flood storage in the floodplain. We applied to DEP, we got this verification, and these flood limits have been documented, and it was recorded in the county clerk's office. And then we proceeded. This represents Plan B of an overall plan that we had to do the entire area with synthetic turf. which allowed us to place a cricket field because of the large area that's required. So, and due to the cost and, this would be an easier application of DEP, less intrusive to the flood hazard area. We went ahead with this Plan B scheme, which is 189,000 square feet of synthetic turf in place of the natural turf that's there now. We're basically following an existing grade. Another part of the project is we're lighting this field as well as the Miller Field. So there'll be 13 light poles installed that'll light up all of these fields that will be synthetic turf. One thing to note, we got the DEP approval for this construction last week. And DEP changed their policy on how to treat synthetic turf. They no longer treat it as an asphalt pavement from a stormwater management standpoint, which makes total sense. Which I'd just like to inform you that doing the entire field, the full build out, is gonna be a relatively simple process. You just have to follow existing grade. There's no under drain piping, just 12 inches of crushed stone. We're keeping the topography essentially the same as what it is. So that's my only comment, is that the door is open to move ahead with the second phase if the town chooses to do so. That's it.
I'm sorry, after you.
No, I just wonder how long will this take?
Construction. We've got it slated to, bids were received yesterday, they look favorable, they're being evaluated. Starting construction the beginning of August, and you're talking about a 4-month period, perhaps shorter. So it'll go to the beginning of December potentially. Hopefully we'll finish it in November.
So this is probably not a question for you, but I could take a poll of the 4 high schoolers in my house, or former high schoolers. They're all unanimously opposed to synthetic turf. So why are we doing this? Why is synthetic turf better than natural turf?
You want my opinion?
I want your opinion, yes.
You're ready.
Yeah, okay.
Synthetic turf is an engineered surface designed explicitly to provide safety. That's what this does. On top of that, it's a permeable surface that allows water to drain directly into the subsurface area. You can use the field within moments after the rain stops or during the rain. Whereas when you have a field that's natural turf, I've done tons of fields where they weren't able to use the field. If it rained, if you had a heavy rain period, there's no sports, all sports got canceled. In addition to that, to maintain natural turf, you're putting herbicides, fertilizers, things that could be deemed, if they stay in the soil, as contaminants. So synthetic turf is fantastic. And why would you not have an engineered safety surface rather than a natural turf?
And safety just because it's more uniform, like the surface
It's
is flatter?
smoother surface, yes. It's got a cushion, it's engineered to have a certain impact resistance. So,
And the drainage comes from that 12 inches of crushed stone, it just goes
Yes.
straight through that?
yes, that's what allows you to play on it. Soon after rains.
I know the answer to this, but I want everyone to hear it. What is the amount of playable hours that we have now versus what we'll have with the new fields? Did you guys
I did not
calculate
do that analysis, but going years back, a lot of school districts did that analysis, and it's tremendous. There's a big difference.
Okay, I know that we did do that analysis in the township at the appropriate time. But it is generally synthetic turf fields provide more playable hours because you can use them right away after the rain. Do you know if the current fields, if they have problems with flooding?
I wouldn't say they have problems with flooding, but we did a geotechnical investigation, and they're not the greatest soils in the world in terms of their ability to drain. There are some spots where water ponds, now you're gonna have a uniform area that drains nicely. You're gonna have any ponding water. So that's the main thing. I'll tell you this though, like I've done read a lot of studies over the years. And the biggest thing, and there's a great report that was done 10, 15 years ago, if anybody remembers, when synthetic turf was removed from some sites and was tested for contaminants, and there was a big lead issue. That was associated with nylon colorization of turf. They used the lead chromate process, and it was just residual. Nobody knew about it at the time or cared when it was manufactured. That doesn't exist anymore, that coloring process. But, you know, now it's, you know, they use polyethylene.
Does this create any particular risks for like health kids?
No, there's been a lot of studies as well as that too, and it's like carpet, there's no risk as far as that's ever been documented. The
Like
biggest thing,
synthetic carpet,
but that,
like synthetic pavement.
right. So there's no risk, I mean, there are complaints, studies about contaminants that can be, and nothing is proven to be real, or we wouldn't have it, you know? So the other thing, the biggest health issue over the years has been the temperature that the field will get raised to as opposed to a natural turf field during the hot summer months. And I know schools that would even put in sprinkler systems just to cool the field for that really hot period of time. So that was the biggest health risk, you know, in New Jersey. This stuff is monitored when the kids are playing. When the field's hot, they have temperature gauges and it's controlled and regulated. And now, and a lot of that's from the rubber material. So this is what's being selected by the district according to what I understand right now. We bid 3 different types of systems. One was an organic fill system where there's no rubber, there's a pad underneath. We had what's called now, it's relatively new, but it's called a non-infill system, but they do have infill. They have a calcium-based sand as opposed to a silica sand, no organic infill, and that has a pad underneath. So that's right. And then finally, the third type of product that we bid was a traditional rubber fill system, but we use green EDPN rubber. That's manufactured rubber, it's not recycled. So it's pure, the content, but it's very expensive, and you know, not to no surprise, it was the highest bid price that we received in that type of field. So what the district, I believe, is selecting is the organic fill material. And it's a similar carpet to what you have on the game field, but just an organic version, no rubber infill.
So when it heats up, does it produce any?
Studies have shown that infill material reduces the temperature significantly.
What about the injuries?
Injuries that you're not going to get a safer surface to play on than a synthetic turf field with a pad that has a G-max level that is way less than regular ground. And when it freezes, ground will freeze and it gets pretty hard. It's a frost-free condition.
The G-max level is referring to the impact.
Yeah, so a G-max test is an impact measurement by dropping a ball a certain weight from a certain height and so forth, and getting a reading. And just to give you an idea, I don't know if it's still on the record. At one point years ago, synthetic turf first came about. A G-max level of 200 was the maximum that the NFL would allow a field to be playing. I think it's moved down to 180. 150 is what schools usually use. The lower the G-max, the more cushiony the thing. So what Metuchen did years ago, they opted to get the pad and the rubber infill. And just informationally, they installed the turf in 2007. They just replaced it, I think, this past year. So, and fields are typically supposed to last 10 years. They got so much more, they got a big bang for their buck by taking and getting that extra pad, and it was a safer surface. I recommended doing that since finding the results of those tests over the years. I've been recommending it to schools and they've all been buying it, and we get initial G-max readings in the 70s, and it just prolongs the length of the field, you know, the duration, useful life. So, and in this case, we have the infill material, albeit organic, and an under.
When you say organic, what does that mean exactly?
Wood material, coconut husk, there's all kinds, not cork, because that was something that, you know, they introduced these organic, they being the industry, you know, in light of the people's concern of rubber infill. And saying that like 15 years ago, they started, there was a whole, you know, range of materials that were available. But nobody had ever used them, but over the past 10 years, we've seen the results. I think East Hanover was close to a floodplain. They put in the almost all cork infill. They needed a pad underneath because the cork alone will not do what rubber can do. And they had a flood and it lifted all the rubber out and deposited around the track and everything. And just a maintenance mess. So I've steered away from the cork.
Yeah, the organic material, is it rock or?
Well, it'll degrade, you know, but throughout the life cycle of the turf. So when you get to, let's just say 20 years, okay, you need new carpet, you'll get new infill.
Are there any need, is there any need for any type of filtration for if it does flood or if you do have a heavy rain that this infill does get dispersed, or how is that mitigated?
Generally, the reason why the cork got distributed everywhere, they were in the floodplain. So there was no place for the water to go. Their under drain system was saturated. There was no place, so it lifted up and it ponded and pooled and spread out. We don't have that condition here. In fact, the fact that we raised the regulatory flood level was raised by 2 feet. Realistically, the flood level is not going to go up 2 feet just because regulatory code required that be designed for that. It just brought more properties into the permitting requirement.
Real quick, and you might not be able to answer, just in your opinion, obviously, a lot of schools are going to this architecture. Do you know percent wise? It sounds like you've been doing this for a long time. Is that 80% of the schools, 50% of the schools? Do you have?
I find it difficult to find any school that's not in favor of. You'll have an element like this community, you have an element of people who, you know, they're against synthetic turf for whatever reason, whatever they've read. But the reality is, especially in New Jersey, you have towns, districts that are fully developed. You don't have open space. We do a lot of projects in Pennsylvania. There are 200-acre campuses with all their schools on one spot, tons of fields. They get the synthetic turf field because even their grass field, they get into a rainy period, at least they have these synthetic turf fields. They can continue their athletic programs, police practices and stuff like that. So New Jersey needs it, like these kind of somewhat urban areas need it badly. But rural areas are adopting as well, just because of that rain condition.
Okay, I have 3, and I asked them that question, and they said the injury actually comes from going from a grass field and then playing somewhere else on a turf field. And you know what I mean? Like they're not used to the same field level. So the more that people are going to turf, it's best to go to a turf because it is a different playing situation. So that's what they said. So
When our students are at away games, chances are they're playing on synthetic turf already. And
that's,
so
they're not
if they
used
have
to,
synthetic turf
yes.
here. Also, isn't it, you know, it's a flat surface, it's not gonna have,
Yes, planarity
so you're not gonna get
superior
twisted
to
ankles and, you know, other sorts of injuries that you would get from, you know, the natural settling of a field,
Right, so it was a transition of one to another. When you get used to those divots and stuff versus, you know, going somewhere else, that's where the injuries. So being more consistent across the board, and that's why I asked you, a lot of schools are going to this, and that seems to be the way to go.
I would like to bring up also, is there a lighting portion to the project?
Yeah, there will be, I've indicated here, it's shown on the plan, there is an electrical plan that identifies the lighting. But there are light poles placed around, like I said, the existing Miller Field. And there are a total of 13 lights. The height ranges from 60 feet to 100 feet. Now, the reason we needed the 100 feet, because these lights, you can see the furthest light, or these two light poles here and here. There's nothing in between here because the plans to expand this area, do the JV field and then the two softball fields, and then have the cricket in the middle, would place the lights. We don't have to relocate them. You know, and then we would supplement put the rest of the lighting in if that second phase came about.
In comparison to the lights that are currently in the stadium, what do these 13 light poles look like?
Well, they're LED. The ones you have out there are older ones. I think they're older monthly lights. The LED lightings, I don't think we have like a cut sheet or anything, but I'm sure you've seen them. They're very sleek and, you know, they're less bulky looking. And, you know, in a lot of schools where we put them in, their head of maintenance, whoever, just presses a few buttons on his phone and controls the lights. Right, it's a very, very cool, high-tech feature, you know?
But this provides additional lighting where none even exists.
Yeah, you don't have any lighting there. You have the temps that
That's
are
what I was
Miller
gonna say, as we start to look
running
at
generators.
some of the, I know the turf versus the natural gets all the attention, but as we looked at how the project benefits the community and therefore is consistent with the master plan, lighting is an important part of that because it increases the availability to use the fields at night. So that's another reason that we should be looking at as we make our recommendation.
That's fine, since the playable activity goes from about 20 that we have now per week to over 90. And that really is significant improvement because we have a real lack of fields in town and we don't have places to build on.
I mean, we're already renting, space because of that. We're renting space at a religious institution to, for the fields because we're just out of capacity.
Do you plan on renting, and maybe this is not right, but renting the fields once you have them complete to other outside agencies? I always get asked that question.
I doubt it. I think there's such a demand. I
There's
can
such a
imagine it, but I think we would no longer rent the fields that we currently rent because we would need to
See.
We'd save that.
I just had one quick one, really just procedural. Let's mark what you showed as Exhibit A1 of the record, and you did submit a set of engineering plans as well as a colored striping plan.
Oh, did I? Oh, yeah, so that might be the 11 by 17 version of this would say. But this one shows the screen, that one.
Yeah, this is not.
Yeah, that's the one that's part of the specifications that the contractor was bidding on.
Yeah.
This one was, I think we needed a larger scale for the bidders. This one was more for the purposes of the property overview.
Right, and so that Exhibit A1 is, we're gonna call
I
it.
could give you, that is known as drawing number C02.1. I can send it to you electronically. I can give you this, whatever you want.
Whatever Sarah wants.
Yeah.
And it's called colored striping.
So it's got the same title, but.
Same title, but this is a 24 by 36. I mean 30 by 42.
Property. Okay, we have enough to identify it different from what was submitted, so that's fine. And I know at some point, when the board is done, perhaps before public questioning and comment, if there is any I think we should hear from our planner who did a fine memo, with respect to master plan consistency. The witness is also a planner, so he may concur or not, that I don't know. And then I don't know if we're gonna hear from any engineering from anyone as well, but, and I'm seeing the affirmative nod yes from our engineers, so don't wanna make sure we have all that taken care of, before the hearing is concluded.
Can you just talk about what material is used for the synthetic turf itself? I know there have been some talk about whether it's hybrid or full synthetic, but can you just talk
It's
about
polyethylene.
polyethylene? Okay, and hybrid was not doable,
I really don't know what a hybrid is.
it's a combination of synthetic and natural grass.
Grass, I've never seen that before, man.
It's becoming more and more common, and it is something that I know at the township committee level we looked at. I think the DOE may have looked at it as well. I think that given the amount of water that area gets, that would make that feasible, is what I'm remembering.
Okay.
But they aren't using, like, I think they're not planning on using the crumb rubber infill, they're using the newer technology, so.
Yeah, the crumb rubber, we had 3 bid styles, styles of turf, I mentioned. The traditional with an organic infill and a pad. And the number of fibers, there's like, you know, that changes from turf to turf, I'm not gonna go into that. Then there was the zero fill, which is really has a very dense, but has a very fine sand layer
Sand has
to
to
weigh
get
it down.
replaced, right? Like,
What's
it
that?
has to get refilled, the sand, right, over time.
Yeah, yes, potentially, right. And then finally, the traditional one with the rubber, albeit not recycled rubber, pure, you know, manufactured rubber. So those were the 3 types.
What type is the existing Millersfield?
Rubber infill. Rubber infill is the most common area, and I think a lot of the, you know, but I really don't know. I think a lot of people think there's contaminants in the rubber that affect people. That's one issue. But it's also the field temperature. I think those are the 2 items I've heard of. And I think it's more temperature.
Less temperature combined with the plastic,
Yeah.
whatever mixes in there.
Yeah, the rubber gets a lot hotter, the non-rubber versions. Hotter than normal grass, but they're not nearly as hot as the old school synthetic turf.
Years ago, when they transitioned from AstroTurf was originally a crown field, it was not vertically drained. It just rolled off to drainage on the side of the field, and it was placed with a pad underneath it on top of asphalt, impermeable asphalt. Then when they came first vertical drain system, they changed that, they were able to flatten out the crown of the field, and they used porous pavement. So that's the first vertically drained system. And then they had a rubber called the E-layer, which was like a porous pavement, but with rubber built into it, so it had cushion. And then it just evolved, and the most common is stone, pad, carpet, and rubber infill, and that was it. There's no need to put in something that would get like a heat island effect. But still,
But
the
this
heat is a
would be
concern.
cooler than the other synthetic
Yes.
turf fields we already
Yes.
have.
Yes.
Right.
And just curious, light, is there a difference in light? I'm sure everybody probably knows this, but is.
Life cycle span, not really, but oddly enough, it depends how much you use the field. There's a lot of fields that last so long. But maybe a private school is limited play on it, it's just, looks great. And it lasts a long time, but it doesn't get a lot of play because of the program they offer. Whereas a public school or a community like this, everybody's dying to get field time, is probably not gonna be like the super longest duration.
So take 10 to 20 years, somewhere.
So it's gonna be 10, I would say the system we're talking about here, you should think about replacing in 15 years.
Said 15?
15, but it's gonna be driven by the GMAX test.
Oh, so that decays over time?
Yes, it will. It will diminish over time, and then the other thing is sometimes it's just like, say a football field. There's heavy active play at the midfield and then at the goal lines. And those are the areas that harden up first, and then they lose fiber. So you lose the thickness, and there's an aesthetic driver that makes you wanna change the field at that point, so.
Is there periodic maintenance that can be enforced to loosen fields to maintain?
Well, there are sweepers and then tools that, tines that go in and just loosen up that turf material. We used to make it part of the package for bidding and everything. And over time, we found a lot of school districts just said, you know what, we hire a firm. We have a sweeper for general maintenance and stuff, but we hire a firm that comes in once a year or twice a year or whatever, and then does with the magnetic and the tine, and they spruce it up. So that's what I've seen happen.
Any other questions from the board for the witness? I'd like to open it up to our engineer and planner. Any questions from you, Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, just a couple. Thank you, Mr. Vaughn.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't swear in our professionals, and this is a public hearing. If you and Mr. Pettit both raise your right hand. Mr. Pettit, raise your right hand. Do both of you swear to God or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you both.
So the DEP doesn't require any stormwater management for the field anymore. That's your permit. So is there the only drainage underneath the field is that stone layer? And then, so when it rains, it goes through the field, through the stone and into the underlying soil.
Yeah, and if there's spots of poor permeability in one area, it'll migrate and go to the areas that are better.
Right.
What happened was they were treating it like synthetic turf, or it's like a pavement.
Yeah.
And it was driving the cost ridiculous. And then I guess there was a project we did in Lincoln Park in 1920, and we got into an argument that was ridiculous. They had a floodplain that had really good, there was a bad area of permeability, but then they had this ridiculously fast area. And they came to the conclusion, you don't have to treat it like a pavement, but you can't put any pipes underneath it to let it leak out or discharge anyplace else uncontrolled. You can just go with stone. And the only thing I can say it's similar to their opinion is permeable pavement, that if you design it with no outfall pipe, it functions a certain way. And then if you have it with the outfall pipe, then you have to design it.
Right, right. So the artificial turf, the synthetic turf is in a portion of the floodplain. And just for the board, the 2-foot rise or increase in the floodplain that the state imposed 3 years ago, Friday, is really related to all the stormwater you now have to design for the year 2100 and higher rainfall amounts. That's why it's 2 feet higher, is that the current floodplain regulations are dealing with what the DEP has determined needs to be planned for 75 years from now. And an increase in the precipitation. So at this point, you said that under the old rules, the floodplain really follows the stream. So the likelihood of, in the near term, in the life of this field, that this area would flood is minimal.
Correct.
If it does flood, say there's another storm like Ida, and that area floods, what happens? The ground is saturated. Is it going to come up into the stone? I mean,
Yeah.
What's your best?
It'll cover the turf, and it'll be underwater. I mean, if that's what happened, that's what happens. If you want to look up the story of Ridgewood, New Jersey. Ridgewood, New Jersey has their synthetic turf. I don't know how they got this approved, 20 some odd years ago, whatever it was. They have their synthetic turf field in the flood bay. So they have a big problem there. It comes on, and then all this then the floodwaters recede, and then you gotta vacuum out, there's all sediment there, it's.
Right. Right.
But
Does-
that's not us.
Right. Does a synthetic, I mean, if it was underwater, does that material, does a pad or this float? Is it buoyant? So it could require.
Could lift it, yes.
Okay.
There's a video of, the Ridgewood one where it's being lifted. But it's been told to me, and I've seen the video, that their under drain system, you know, which you typically would have, everybody designed for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
Didn't have vents. I never designed one with vents. If, you know, I'm up in the Highlands area, I just did the regular vertically drained. There's no need for the air that's in the system to release. I was told that that system doesn't have, it didn't have any vents, so.
Right. Okay.
I think that was most of what was causing that. But again, I took my samples and I threw them away tubs just to verify that. Like, it wasn't a technical comment.
All right, on the lighting, so they're all LED. I presume that those various light fixtures and the lights that go on those poles will all be designed in a way that all the light is directed towards the field.
Oh yeah, there's a pretty sharp cutoff.
Right, so not that. Where I know the answer, but I want the board to hear it. It's not that you won't see the glow from the lights, but if you're standing behind the lights, it's not directly illuminated. Is that correct?
Correct. We don't have, like a lot of field projects with lighting we have seating. And we have to put supplemental lighting because the cutoff is so sharp at the field. If you forget to light the pedestrian walkways, you're gonna have a problem. We really don't have that here because we're just, all the areas around these fields are just at-grade pathways.
Right, and all lighting fixtures can be controlled individually so that you can turn on those 6 lights, but not those 7 lights. Is there a way that for some reason you don't need to turn on every fixture that sits on the pole?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
Musco developed a plan. All I did was bring the cut sheet for the heights, because that's usually the big concern. But there's a lighting plan for each individual field for the full build out. And it shows, I think, you know, it's like 40-foot candles spot
On the field itself?
point by point, yeah,
Right.
that's.
But behind it, it's
Full cut, well, they didn't take it out to 0, but there was a cutoff,
Right.
pretty good cutoff.
Right.
And the higher you go, that's why we have hundreds, the more focused the lighting is.
okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I have no further comments on the plan itself, I just have the consistency. I don't know if that, or else, do you want me to go through that now?
If we can, let's get comments from the public, short, and then ask Mr. Wolf to sit down if everybody's done, and then please take it through.
Sure.
So, I think that concludes, I guess, the board questions and our expert questions. Is there anybody from the public who has questions for Mr. Wolf?
I just have like 3 basic questions. Mr. Pelt? Yeah. Public hearing, so we have to go through the formality. If you could stand, introduce yourself, name and address, and then you could ask a question.
Jeffrey Feld, 11 Alexander Lane, Short Hills, New Jersey. I've been starting with this project when I started with the conversion of the Part 3. So I know the history, but I just want to understand, all 3 different proposals will have a 12-inch crushed stone. And will all 3 different licks, I think you said, big productions, have pads? Because I think you were talking about the safety, that there would be more safer one is the ones that have pads. Do all the 3 proposals have pads or just
All of them.
they'll all have pads? And in your professional opinion, which one would you recommend to the township and Board of Education of, if not looking at cost, as to the best one for safety and for use of the 3 proposals?
I think they're all equivalent. When you get into, I mean, because safety is really the G max, and it's all gonna be fantastic for these fields. Me personally, maybe if I was, 40 years younger, I'd have a preference because I could play sports. But now it's, I think the district is leaning towards is, the organic infill, it's fine, very similar to what you have out there.
Again, I thank you because I've gone through all your presentations. I think this has been probably the best one you gave, giving the explanation as to different turfs and the use of the drainage. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? All right, that concludes the public session. Thank you very much, Mr. Walker. Mr. Petto, could you take us through your memo?
Sure, absolutely. So just to kind of recap and bring it back to, Mr. Warner's opening remarks. In accordance with municipal land use laws, when a planning board has adopted any portion of a master plan, the governing body of other public agency must refer a proposed public project to the planning board before taking action requiring the expenditure of public funds relating to the project's location, character. The planning board reviews the project and provides a recommendation in conjunction with the master plan. Public agency may not act on the project until it receives the planning board recommendation for 45 days have elapsed for the following referral. And this requirement expressly applies to school boards. This is NJSA 4455B/31A, as Mr. Warner indicated. So to facilitate the board's review this evening, the memo that I prepared identifies relevant sections of the 2018 master plan reexamination and update, as well as the 2023 open space and recreation master plan element for the board's consideration in determining whether the proposed high school fields improvements further the township planning policies and whether any recommendations should be transferred to the Board of Education. So with respect to the relationships to the master plan section, I have kind of two sections. First is the proposed improvements in relationship to the master plan reexamination and update in 2018. The first is goal 1, objective 1.04, provide areas for recreation to serve the needs of all age groups, including indoor and outdoor facilities, as well as active and passive recreational opportunities. This project, is consistent with that goal objective. The second is public use zone recommendations. While the municipality doesn't have an adopted public use zone, this would fall within the public use zone, consistent with that recommendation. Identify and potentially acquire lands for new active recreation fields. New active recreation fields should be all-purpose fields with artificial turf. Although this project does not acquire or create a new recreation site, it advances the underlying recommendation by expanding all-purpose artificial turf capacity at an existing public school facility here within the township. The third is goal 6, objective 6.03, evaluate and improve the township's infrastructure as appropriate. Obviously, the proposed field, drainage, lighting, and related improvements constitute an upgrade to the existing public recreational infrastructure. And finally, goal 6, this is kind of in deference to Mr. Keller as well, protect water resources and enforce sustainable design practices. Proposed grading and drainage improvements related to the objective, subject to confirmation by Mr. Keller, that runoff and water resources impacts are adequately addressed by the proposed improvements. So I guess that was a question for you, but see what it is. So
Yes, and affirmed by DEP.
Oh, yes, yeah, that's true. And then the second section of my consistency review talks about the improvement project in context of the objectives and recommendations of the open space and recreation element of the master plan. I have a long list here. I'll try and go through them quickly, but there's a number of those that are advanced. First, goal number 1, maintain a high quality park system. Goal number 2, expand and enhance active recreational opportunities. Goal number 5, plan parks efficiently. Objective 2, activation. Identify township and board of education land that is undeveloped or underdeveloped to expand or enhance township recreational capacity. Objective 9, cooperation, coordinate with other entities such as the Board of Education to leverage opportunities for new and or shared facilities and programming. Objective 11, enhance, expand or develop additional facilities where feasible within existing parkland to provide further recreational capacity. Objective 15, flexibility, provide spaces that can comfortably accommodate a wide range of sports and activities. Objective 21, optimize facilities, plan facilities and programming to maximize their use without reducing their quality or creating undue impact on surrounding neighborhoods. Objective 22, organize active recreation, expand opportunities for sports leagues and other outdoor fitness programming, including through the expansion of facilities and programs, as well as more efficient use of existing resources. Objective 33, upgrade, ensure the township's existing park facilities remain up to modern standards and upgrade or replace facilities as needed. Improvements to existing facilities, game-ready fields. The element specifically identifies Malvern High School fields as candidates for improvements and reconfiguration to accommodate games, shared sports spaces, and additional recreational capacity. That's on page 48 through 49 of the plan. Improvements to existing facilities field lights. The element specifically identifies Milburn High School fall fields as appropriate for consideration of field lighting to extend playable hours, subject to careful fixture orientation and mounting height committee and text to nearby residents. That's also on page 49 of the plan as well. And I think Mr. Warner has already kind of covered what the board's action here this evening with the draft recommendation for that summary of identified consistent items from those two plan elements.
Is it possible now we can make a recommendation?
Sure, sure, as soon as it's done, yeah.
Well, the only thing I would recommend, if I may, Mr. Chairman, is we did do the public questioning. We haven't yet done public comment. I don't think it's wrong to do recommendations at any point in time throughout the process, but I don't know if you wanted to wait until the public comment, if there is any, and then make recommendations. Although, actually, you know what, public may be interested in the recommendations first, so never mind, please go, whenever you feel appropriate.
No, my recommendation is, I actually went to Kent Place Schools for the second go around. So my recommendation is to confirm that all of the turf underlying part is as quality, because the life is really important and as active as this particular fields that I think they will be. Just confirming that the life of this field with the choice that has been made, that they go to the highest quality, because I think this field will be used. Again, I was in the second phase of Kent Place replacing or updating their field, and that was one of the things that they felt that they didn't do the first go around. And I know materials change, so I'm not that into what's available today, but that would be my recommendation. Because the price and the length of time, it outweighs the quality is truly like.
I would second that.
Good recommendation. Well, we have it open. Anybody else have a recommendation before we open up the public comment? All right, I would like to open up the floor to anybody from the public for public comments.
I'm just glad again, Jeff Burrell, I'm just glad we're at this point. You know, where we started about 4 years ago, where you're gonna tear down the part 3, and where we are today.
And Mr. Bell, would you swear to God to that?
You want me to swear to God that I will, my answer.
Thank you, then it is formally under oath.
Yes.
Thank you. Or swear to God or affirm, whatever you choose.
I do with.
Yeah.
All right, there being no other public comments, I'd like to open up the board for discussion and any further recommendations.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, just to remind the board, the authority here is whether you find the project to be consistent with the township's master plan and the goals and objectives set forth in the same, perhaps consistent with our planner's memo and testimony in that regard. And if you have any recommendations beyond that, particularly related, in your opinion, to making the project even more consistent with the township's master plan and the goals and objectives of the same, those would again be recommendations.
I would like to say thank you to the township and the BOE for getting this done. I've lived here now for almost 15 years. I play soccer. I utilize the fields. I played on every field here. My kids play soccer. My kids play lacrosse. My wife coaches lacrosse. I coach soccer. I'm out on these fields almost every day. And I have heard so many comments over the years that Milburn, you're in a very nice community, but you don't have any fields to play on. We'd rather play at our place than yours. So finally, we're getting more fields to play on, and the kids will definitely appreciate it. There are over 570 kids in Milburn Soccer Club, all residents, and we play in Old Short Hills Park. Our 7-year-olds with 6-inch high grass where the ball barely moves, you know, again, we don't have enough turf fields to play in spring. We're sharing those sports. So again, much gratitude for everybody working on this and getting it done. I think the town will significantly benefit from these fields and the lighting. So much appreciated.
Just thinking about the PFAS materials that are being used, maybe considering using something that's not PFAS without the fluorinated chemicals.
Studies I could show you, offline that, show that these are actually incredibly safe. There's a lot of PFAS. California Environmental Commission just did a report, I think, in the past few years, which is actually PFAS levels in the modern artificial turf is similar to what you'll find in natural grass.
That's the report.
That's the comprehensive response report.
Yes, there's stuff in there. Over those studies.
Are there any other comments or recommendations from the board? There being no other comments, I would like to make a motion to, it's gonna be not inconsistent again, right? Or is this?
Well, you can go so far, Steve, as should you so desire. The motion can be that the project is consistent with the township's master plan and the goals and objectives set forth in same. And then just let us know if you're including any one or both of the recommendations that I believe I heard. One with respect to confirming the turf is underlining, the lining under the padding or underlining is of sufficient quality to maximize the life expectancy of the field. And I don't know, and if you are also including the recommendation to minimize PFAS in the selection process, or not. One, both, or neither.
As Steve said, so moved. Do I have a second?
Oh, I'm sorry, is it with both recommendations?
I would like both recommendations. That's okay with everybody. I believe both of them are already taken into account, to my understanding, but I will make them as recommendations. I don't think there's any issue.
Would you wish to say to the extent not already satisfied as the vote?
Sure. All right.
And we do have a motion.
Do I have a second? Second. Roll call vote, please.
Jonathan Baxter,
Yes.
Allison Campbell,
Yes.
Michael Cohen,
Yes.
Deborah Neves,
Yes.
Frank Sacamandi,
Yes.
Michael Zion,
Yes.
Vice Chair Srini Vijay,
Yes.
Chair Gaston Hopper,
Yes.
Sturgis Suso.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Next on our agenda may be an executive session. So at this time, I think if the motion passes, we will turn off the live feed. We will not be coming back on. There will be no new business and no other business action taken. And all we will do is come back and close the meeting. So Mr. Warner, can you please tee us up for an executive session?
Certainly, by way of resolution, so we'll have a motion second and a roll call vote. The board will go into an executive session pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, which permits the same, particularly with respect to section 12B7 thereof, for pending litigation, specifically High Center for Living Judaism versus Township of Milburn et al. Case number 225-CV-17318. It is anticipated that the deliberations conducted in closed session will will be disclosed to the public upon determination by the planning board that the public interest no longer requires such confidentiality, and the resolution shall take effect immediately. Again, a motion second and roll call vote for same.
Make a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Jonathan Baxter,
Yes.
Alvin Campbell,
Yes.
Michael Cohen,
Yes.
Deborah Nevas,
Yes.
Frank Sacamandi,
Yes.
Michael Zion,
Yes.
Vice Chair Srini Vijay,
Yes.
Chair Gaston Hopper,
Yes.
Survey Sisto.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Yes. Did you